So I do want to start off by saying that these are my truths. These are the things that I have used that have really, really helped our relationship flourish. I feel like these are the things that I used on a daily basis. These are the things that I live by. These are the things that if I'm sitting across the table from you and you need help, these are the things I'm going to tell you to do, and I have told other people to do, and they have came back and have had great results with their child. So what I have prepared for you today is a few do's and don'ts of what you should keep in mind when you're trying to communicate with your child. So the first thing you want to do is create a safe space for your child. What does that look like? So that looks like setting the ground rules, saying, hey, right now, I want you to talk to me and let me know how you feel. And here's the thing. You might say things that aren't right, or you might say things that you feel like you might get in trouble for. I want you to know that it is okay for you to tell me these things and I will not get mad. Especially if you haven't built that rapport yet, I urge you to start here. Start with giving them the opportunity to openly speak about what they're feeling or what they did or whatever it is they're trying to tell you without them feeling like there's a gotcha at the end. I urge that you do have these type of conversations, especially when the intent is to build rapport. Kind of let that go to the side, the whole, you're going to get in trouble thing, and just really help them feel comfortable. Kids already face the challenge of their brains not being fully developed. So when they're trying to communicate with you, it's hard for them to express what they're feeling or maybe say it the right way. So expect them to use the wrong words, to use the wrong tone, to use the wrong everything. They're learning how to be functional human beings. They're learning how to communicate with you. And so expect them to say things wrong. Expect them to say things that are like, could hurt your feelings or could be misconstrued. So it's our job as their parents to create an environment where they feel that they can communicate and they're free to express their emotions and their thoughts. Second do is ask open-ended questions. Questions drive conversation and thought. So if your child is trying to communicate with you and they're not doing a great job, which they most likely won't because, they're learning, what I suggest you do is ask questions, especially when they say something that maybe makes you turn your head like, is that really what you mean? Anything that they're saying, I would repeat it with an open-ended question. So like, for instance, to say they're trying to communicate with you something that you're not quite capturing, you're not understanding fully what they mean, or maybe you are understanding it a type of way and you're just not sure if that's truly what they mean. Some questions you can ask them is, what do you mean by XYZ? What do you mean when you say this, this, this? Another question you can ask is, can you say that differently? Because I don't know if I understand. These questions are going to help them be able to really dig. Patience, patience, parents, patience, because obviously they're trying to scrounge their little brains and figure out how to communicate this with you. Think about all the words in our vocabulary that we use to express how we feel. Mad, angry, upset, livid, raged. Like, there's so many words, and all of those slightly mean a little bit different type of angry or mad, right? So they don't know all those words, so they're going to say things wrong. So help your child articulate and be able to really think about what they're trying to say. And they might say, I don't know how to explain it. And you say, it's okay if you say it wrong. Say it however you think, and we'll get through it together. That shows them that you're present with them. You're there listening to them, ready to receive what they have to say to you. It's about showing them that you genuinely care about what they have to say and that you have nowhere else to be but right there with them. That makes them feel like they have someone who is truly invested in what they have to say. We as humans, as adults, when we go out to eat with a friend and they're on their phone the whole time, or they're just like, you say something that they don't really understand, and then they just kind of, oh, okay. Like, you can feel the distance and you can tell that that person isn't present. Rather, someone say, oh, what do you mean by that? Tell me more about that. It's the same thing with our kiddos, is being able to have this conversation. It just takes patience and it takes asking a lot of questions in our part. Okay, so the next do might be a little difficult for some of us, which is remain neutral and impartial. So obviously our kids have a lot of leverage on us because we're their parent and we love them. And obviously when they say things or they do things, it affects us directly. So what you should do is separate your emotion with the conversation that is being had. So when your child is telling you, especially if it's one of those conversations where they're really being honest about how maybe you made them feel or something you did make them feel or just how they feel in general, they might not know how to express that truly because, like I said just here previously, they don't have the full extensive vocabulary and understanding of the emotion or the words that they can use to express that emotion. And so remaining neutral and not letting your emotions get in the way of being there for them is super important. Not easy, but super important. Remember that the goal is to build a strong relationship where they feel like they can communicate with you. Listening to understand, not listening to react or to feel any type of way. It's just listening and saying, okay, I hear you. I'm trying to understand you. And also knowing that you're speaking to a child, you're speaking to a kid, knowing your audience. You're not going to communicate or receive things the same if it's an adult versus a child who's speaking to you. So it's just remembering that their brains are developing. They're still trying to learn how to communicate. And so remaining impartial, and remaining just neutral really strengthens the bond and their ability to be able to communicate with you when they don't feel like they're being attacked. Or, we tend to sometimes, when we get emotional, is ask targeted questions. At that point, now it's one against the other and it's not a fair fight. So you're going to win the argument, but you're going to lose the battle of building a strong relationship with your child. So the next two we're going to talk about is validating their feelings, making sure that they know that their feelings are valid. And I understand that sounds crazy, like they're throwing a tantrum because they broke a toy and they're acting like it's the end of the world. You have to understand that your world is a certain size and your child's world is a totally different size. And we have more life experience, so our world is bigger. We can then have a point of reference to say, yeah, the problems that I had in high school, they weren't so big compared to the problems I have now. Well, that's because your world is bigger. You have lived longer. For your child who's 9 years old and is upset because his favorite stuffy or his favorite toy is broken is just as devastating as if you just crashed your car and it was your brand new car and your favorite thing that you purchased and bought yourself. It's the same feeling of devastation. And you can think, well, Marcy, that's very different. That is a toy that cost $5 and this is a vehicle that costs not $5. And you're totally right. It is different to you, but to them it's not. So it's understanding that their world is their world. And you, if you're trying to communicate with them and you're trying to build rapport with them, meet them where they are. So make sure that you're validating their feelings and letting them know that I understand you're upset and I'm so sorry. So if they come to you and say, I'm upset because I dropped this or I broke this, is embracing them, or maybe saying, hey, I understand, I'm so sorry that happened, that sucks, oh no, making them feel like it's okay for you to feel that. Now, there is a difference between feeling upset and then having a bad reaction, and that's something that I will touch on in a different video. Right now, what we're talking about is just the feeling of being upset, right? Is it okay for them to then go and like throw all their toys all over the floor and start like smashing them with a hammer? Okay, obviously that's a big exaggerating here, but no, it's not okay, right? And that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that them feeling upset is valid. Now, the action that comes after the feeling of feeling upset, that is a totally different thing. That's not what I'm talking about right now. So what I'm saying is just validate their feelings. Make sure that they know, hey, I get why you're upset. You're understood, right? Don't make them feel like, should I not feel this heartbroken? But I do feel this heartbroken, because what that does is it creates a separation between y'all where my parent just doesn't get it. They just don't understand that this is important to me. And so understand, right? Meet them where they are. The next two is clarifying their statements. It's crucial, especially if they say something that's really hurtful, right? They might say, Mommy, I don't love you anymore because you threw away my toy, or I don't love you anymore because you took away my phone. You can then ask a clarifying question like, are you saying that because you're upset because of what I just said to you? Because I asked you to pick up your toys? Because I'm telling you to go to bed early? Because I'm saying XYZ? These questions are really going to help clarify, because a lot of times they just don't understand or know how to communicate something, or don't understand how their words affect others or affect you. So you can say, when you tell me those things, when you say you don't love me, you make me feel like XYZ, and you can tell them how they make you feel. And that helps them understand, like, oh, that's what that means. When I say these things to you, that is what I'm communicating. So they can say, well, no, that's not true. So you can then say, are you trying to say that maybe you're upset with me? Like right now, you don't like me very much because you didn't like what I did, right? They can say, well, yeah, I don't like you very much right now. They're like, oh, okay. So what you're trying to say is not that you don't love me. What you're trying to say is that you're upset with me. And then they're going to say yes. And you can say, well, that's valid. You're upset because I said something or I did something. And maybe it's something that you were in your total parental right to do and say. So I'm not saying like go and say, well, I shouldn't have said that. No, maybe you should have said that. Maybe you did have to correct that child in that time and they just didn't like it. But you're able to then communicate with them and teach them how to accurately communicate. So another do is explain what you're saying. Oftentimes we communicate to our children like they understand everything we're saying and it goes over their head and they're just like, whoa, I don't even know half of what you said. And so when you say, do you understand? They're like, yeah. And then they don't. So it's important that if you're using words, especially words that, I wouldn't say big words because big words to a child could be like simple words. But you can say if you're using any word that you're not sure that if you've used before with your kid, I would say go ahead and ask them, say, do you know what that means? So if you say, do you know that I love you unconditionally, and that nothing could ever make me not love you? Stop and say, do you know what I mean? Do you know what unconditionally means? So then they can tell you, no, I don't know what that means. And you say, okay, do you know what conditional means? No, I don't. So you have an opportunity to then teach them what it means. Don't skip over that. I know it takes time. It takes effort. It takes did I say time already? Because it takes so much time and it takes patience to explain these things to them, right? It's so much easier to just kind of go over it, mull over it and be like, well, I said it. Well, no, remember you are communicating with your child to build rapport. For you to feel like, man, when I speak to this person, they just get me. Think about you, think about your best friend, your partner, someone who you really trust and you really love talking to. Why do you love talking to them? It's because they make you feel understood, because they don't make you feel dumb. You don't feel lost when you speak to them. When they speak to you, you feel comfortable enough to ask questions, or maybe they'll tell you like, hey, did I tell you about this thing? Let me tell you what that is. Do you know what that is? Let me tell you what that is. And that's what it is. It's just, it's bringing you into the know. And so I highly encourage for you to do this with your child, because that not only are you going to teach them how to have a bigger vocabulary and how to express themselves better, but it also makes them feel like they're included in what's going on in that moment. And everybody wants to feel like they're included, especially with someone they love, like their parent. So now let's jump into the don'ts. The good thing about the don'ts, they're easy to remember because they really go hand in hand with the do's. If you do the do's, then you don't do the don'ts. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I mean. So the first one is do not invalidate their feelings, which I spoke about how you validate them. So the same thing obviously goes, don't invalidate their feelings. So how would you invalidate their feelings? What does that look like? So letting them know, let's say again, back to the scenario I used earlier, they break their toy, they're devastated because that was their favorite toy. Don't make that small. If it isn't small for them, then it's not small. Remember, their world is a different size than yours. So the capacity, the percentage of how much space and love from their world that they gave to that toy is pretty big. In their world, that was a huge loss. And so you don't want to invalidate that. And so ways you could invalidate that, what that would look like is saying things like, are you seriously mad about that? Oh my God, it's just a toy. It's not a big deal. No, don't cry about that. That's not a reason to cry. And I will be honest, that was me early on when my son was young, maybe when he was like 2. I was that parent where it upset me to see him upset over small things. So I used to tell him, like, if you're going to cry about that, I don't want to see it. Go cry over there because that's not a reason to cry. So what I was teaching my son is that if you are going to cry, if you have a loss in your life, in your world, don't come to me for that, because that is not a reason to cry. Go cry somewhere else. Go cry somewhere else. And now thinking about it, it really breaks my heart because that is definitely the opposite of what I want. And so luckily I was able to correct that early on. And, So it's important to not make the things that are big to them small because you think they're small. Maybe they're small in your world, right? And you can think, well, I can just get you another one. But to them, that was, Frankie, they're little stuffy and nothing is going to replace Frankie. And that's what they have. That was them. It doesn't matter. You can't replace him. You can't buy another one. It's not the same. That wouldn't be Frankie or whatever. And so it's just important to not invalidate what they're feeling. That is their reality. That goes hand in hand with the next one, which is do not dismiss their feelings. Do not dismiss what they're going through. Even if it's positive, right? Negative or positive. Sometimes your child will come and say, oh my God, guess what? I was playing Minecraft and this is what happened in the portal, in the diamond, in the bedrock thing or whatever. And you're just like, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. But you see their excitement, you feel the energy that they're coming, like join them, right? Join them. And they're obviously coming to you because they're excited about something. So I would say join, be like, really? What is that? Tell me about it. Oh, really? And just getting into their world and being like, that's so awesome. You did that? That's so cool. Like, oh, you must be really good, giving them that positive just validation, just a little moment of where they feel like, man, like I got to share a win with my mom or I get to share a win with my dad. That's exciting. It doesn't take anything away from you. It literally takes like 10 seconds to do. So I encourage that anytime your child comes and shares a win with you, man, like really celebrate that win with them because that really makes them feel seen and heard and again included and make them feel like, man, you really get me. And that's what we're going for here. Rapport, rapport, rapport. You get me, you get me. I love talking to you. I'm coming to you when I need help. That's what we want. So do not dismiss their concerns. Same thing with the negative part, right? Them, feeling a type of way or they feeling upset or sad about something. I would really just go there and to that place, and if you've already established a sense of rapport with them, you're able to then maybe take them out of it and give them a new perspective because you've earned that mutual ground with them. You've earned that respect and love and understanding from them where they're open to hearing what you have to say because you're someone that they trust. And that's why we're doing this. So then we are able to reach our kids. So then when they grow up, they come to us and we're able to help them and be a parent and be someone who obviously is able to help our children when they inevitably grow up and join us in this world of chaos. And so do not dismiss their concerns. I think that's definitely a good one. All these things like dismissing their concerns and invalidating their feelings can create unnecessary anxiety because they start to feel like something is wrong with them. Like, should I not be upset about this? Should, like, what, like, is this right? Is this wrong? Like, again, they're still developing. They don't have the mind capacity to understand what they're feeling and how to express it and even defend themselves to say, no, I have the right to feel this way because this is important to me. Obviously, they're not able to do that for themselves, and that's where we come in. And so it's important that we protect our kids by not creating these anxieties in their life where they start to feel, again, misunderstood and like something is wrong with them. So doing that can create anxieties and hinder their emotional development. And we want to make sure that they know that it's okay to be upset sometimes. I think it's important for them to see us also. I didn't say that, but that's a do. Like having them see us regulate ourselves, be upset. We're not supposed to be perfect. We're not supposed to be people who have it all figured out. Our kids don't expect us to be that. If anything, we should be an example of someone who is a human being going through things and they can see us say, hey, my mom, my dad, they get upset too. And I see them and this is what they do to bring themselves back to a calm state and then communicate once they're in a better mind state. And so those are the things we really want to share with our kids because that's what they are learning. Kids do what they see, not what they hear, right? So you can tell them all day long, this is what you need to do. But if they're watching you do something different, they're going to do what you do. So another don't is do not react in your emotional state, right? Obviously, we're humans, like I've mentioned before, and like you clearly know, we are human beings, we're emotional beings. So when we have situations, especially with our kids can trigger the crap out of us. So when we have a situation with our child and we feel triggered, I urge you not to react in your emotional state because they're watching you. And like I said, they do what they see, not what you tell them. So you reacting negatively and just lashing out, although it happens sometimes, I urge you to try to avoid that. And the way you avoid that is that if you're emotional and you feel like your emotions right now have the best of you, just stop. Don't continue that conversation because we obviously cannot think straight, and we usually say things we regret when we're emotional, even to our kiddos. And they remember, trust me, they remember. And they will bring it up and you will feel guilt. And so just what I would say is wait until you are in a more logical state to then communicate with them. Or let's say you just picked them up from school and something they do or say, you find out they got in trouble, you find out that, like something happened and you're upset and you're just not in the right state. Tell them like, you know what, I'm very upset right now. Give me a minute and I'm going to talk to you when I'm ready to talk to you. And then do talk to them, right? Obviously don't take a long time. Take, a few minutes, give yourself a few minutes to just kind of calm down and regulate, take deep breaths, and then say, okay, I've calmed myself down. Now I'm able to talk to you in a calmly manner and then communicate with them. And I will say, in the event that, let's say, you're not able to stop yourself, and it happens, trust me, it happens to the best of us because it's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you. And so, let's say you have a moment where you lash out. Let's say you just snap and you say something. What is so important, and I hope that you do, is have grace on yourself. You are not supposed to be a perfect parent. We're human beings raising other human beings. And so if that were to happen, a great thing to do, which really, really helps with rapport, is apologizing. I know that's crazy. Some parents don't believe in apologizing to their child, right? We teach our kids to apologize and to go and do all these things, but we have to be the example. And so apologizing to your child and letting them know, like, hey, earlier when I snapped at you, I was very upset because you did XYZ. But just because you did that did not give me the right to yell at you or to speak to you that way or to say these things to you. So I do want to apologize. And I want to say, I'm so sorry for what I said or for doing this or for whatever. I am going to work on it. That's not how we should behave, right? So this is why I'm going to work on calming myself down before we speak. That is one of the biggest rapport builders because they feel like, oh, you're human too. Like we're learning together. We are able to you know, it's not just a one-sided thing here, and I can tell you, I've apologized to my kid so many times and, and sincerely, and he's so sweet because he will forgive me every time. So it makes it easy for him. I don't have to ask him anymore, like, hey, do you think you should apologize to me for what you said? He will upfront come and he'll come to that conclusion because he has learned to analyze, okay, so my mom, she snapped, she thought about it, she realized that it was wrong, and she apologized to me, and she's going to work on it, and she's going to do better, and this is what she's going to do to help that situation to be better about that. So then he learns to do that himself, right? So then he comes to you and he says, Mom, I just want to say I'm sorry. Or Dad, I want to say I'm sorry for what I did. I'm going to be better. And, and if they need help kind of guiding that, you can help them be like, well, what are you sorry about? To really truly see if they truly understand what they're apologizing for, and then teaching them how to apologize. I had a whole conversation with my son, which maybe I'll do a video about that, about what is an apology and what's not, and truly understanding what ownership is and taking accountability. But that's a different conversation, different video that I will do. And so, so to come back around is so important to just make sure to, one, you own up to your stuff, but also try not to react or act in an emotional manner. And if you are emotional, give yourself a beat. It's normal. It is normal. We are humans. And please, please, please have grace on yourself if maybe you slip up and don't. And it's okay. It is okay. It gives you an opportunity to apologize to your child, and it builds rapport. Trust me, it does. So the last thing I want to say, and never, 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 do not, this is a big don't, do not, absolutely don't talk negatively about your co-parent in front of your child. I know that there are some situations that are a little dicey, and it's hard because maybe they're not a really good person, right? Or maybe they make your life a living hell. But it's important to realize that these are different roles that are being played, okay? Your relationship with your co-parent is a totally different relationship than their relationship with their child. You speaking negatively about that co-parent, what that does is it creates a strain on your child. Yes, it does affect the co-parent, which is, I get it, the goal when you're speaking ill, right? You're trying to make sure your child knows that their dad or their mom is horrible. They are irresponsible, and they're not as good as a parent as you are, and all these things. And you might be totally right. The thing is, like, you might not be wrong. You're probably right. I believe you. The thing is, when you do that, when you speak too ill about your co-parent to your child or around your child where they can hear it and they receive that, you're creating so much hurt and pain in that child. And in the moment, they might not think anything of it, but it does. It builds, and inevitably it creates a strain. You're stealing away joy. You're stealing away, you're taking from your child. And so please do not speak ill about that person, even if you are 100% right. So I know that co-parenting is complicated, and that's another video that I will be doing, because again, I have been blessed and have been able to really have a great co-parenting relationship with my co-parent. And so I, you know, I urge you that if you have a disagreement, or you have, and that's going to happen, you have a disagreement or are not seeing eye to eye, privately talk to that person, and do not include the child. You want to be presented as a united front in front of the child, for their development's sake, for their sanity's sake. It's not about that other parent. It's about your child. And your child truly needs that stability, and they don't need that extra chaos coming in and really disturbing their growth and their development, because it definitely will. So remember, effective communication and building rapport with your child takes patience, it takes time, it takes grace, both for them and yourself, by creating a safe environment, asking open-ended questions, validating them, apologizing when needed, meeting them where they are, making their wins your wins, making their downs or their falls your falls. Like, all of that creates a sense of unity, and this, it makes them feel like they're really at home, and they have a friend in you. They have someone who's going to guide them and help them. It builds confidence. And so I hope that this video has blessed you and has helped you. These tips help me. I use them every day. There's a few more that I didn't mention. So if you guys want more, if I missed any, comment, let me know what you think. And if you haven't yet, follow me, subscribe. I would love your support. I'm going to continue to post about parenting, co-parenting, communication, and how to just strengthen quality of your relationships in your life. I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time.